Welcome to Into the Woo, a wellness podcast hosted by Alice Hu. I'll be exploring the world of crystals, energy healing, spirit guides, and more to help you understand how they can unlock your potential. These concepts have helped me discover my purpose and my truth, and I can't wait to hear how they will inspire you. I'll show you how they can be accessible and powerful tools in your life. So we're in the Aquarian age, and what does that mean? That means that things are going to be happening a lot faster. Communication, manifestation, technology is really going to go into hyperdrive. And one of the newest apps that I've been using is called Clubhouse. Clubhouse is definitely an Aquarian social media app for sure. If you're not familiar with it, it is audio only, and there's lots of different rooms, aka conversations, happening. And I've met some incredible people on this platform, truly like minded, so many people into spirituality and wellness. I think that there's just a true sense of authenticity that you can hear from someone's voice without the distraction of what they're wearing and how they look. You can immediately tell someone's intention when you listen to what they're sharing in a room, whether they're asking a question or sharing their experiences. This platform is really a boon for learning through storytelling as well as just learning from experts. I've enjoyed sessions with Shaman Durek, neuroscientists, leaders in business, people who are wonderful at public speaking, podcast advice. The list just goes on and on and on. And I've been able to host and moderate a couple really cool rooms. On Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, I moderate a room about manifestation. So, talking about success stories, asking questions, really building a strong community around what you're trying to co create with the universe every single week. And I've really loved just connecting with people on a weekly basis to talk about, hey, this is what I've done. And this is what I need some extra, good vibe energy for to help me call in this manifestation. On Thursdays, I've been hosting rooms about various topics in spirituality and woo woo, and this episode is a recording of one of those rooms. Now, this room was all about spiritual awakenings, so many powerful stories and messages. And I knew that I had to record it to share it with you for those who aren't on the app. So, this is going to be divided into two parts, so it's very digestible, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, guys, let's get started. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm super excited about this room. I've had so many wonderful conversations about spirituality and business, manifestation, crystals, energy healing, just so much on Clubhouse. And I wanted to host a room just to talk about spiritual awakenings. I have a lot of wonderful speakers here on stage with me, and if you want to come on stage to ask a question, maybe you're going through it right now, or you just have something that you want to share about your spiritual awakening, we would love to hear. But for now, I want to do a quick introduction to all the lovely co-moderators on stage. I'm so excited to have everyone here. So let's start off with Jennifer.
Hi, you guys. I'm Jennifer. I am a Kundalini yoga teacher living outside of Washington, D.C. I'm not going to lie, Alice, this topic has given me flutters all day. I've been it's not anxiety when it's, you're about to do something that you love and that's important to you. It's that kind of, that soul stirring anticipation. And I've been feeling that all day talking about this subject. It's so intimate and sacred, personal, and I hope that I can find the right words to describe it. I'm just really grateful to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, it is, some of the most personal experiences to really share about your spiritual awakening. But I think that so many people are going through it now because of COVID. It really kind of speeds up a lot of spiritual awakenings because It's like, what's my purpose? What am I meant to do here? And so, if you're like, I don't know, I just got into this room, I don't even know what a spiritual awakening is, don't worry, we will share that definition as well. Everyone kind of has a different definition. But right now, we're just going through the stage, getting everyone to introduce themselves. And please note that I'm attempting to record this. I am no audio engineer, but I think the conversations we're going to have this evening are going to be so important, so profound. And so I want to be able to just record it, keep it just in some way possible. If you don't want to be recorded, I can edit you out. Just DM me over Instagram. But my plan is to put this onto my podcast, Into the Woo. So next up is Alejandro. I just met him the other day in a spirituality and business entrepreneurship room, and we just had such a wonderful conversation. I'm so excited to be continuing that this evening. Alejandro, hello.
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you so much, Alice, for having us here, and for all the speakers and all the listeners. My name is Alejandro. I'm an executive coach to founders, entrepreneurs, and conscious leaders. I believe that all business is spiritual. I'm also a mushroom and microdosing advocate. I just launched a microdosing journal, and I'm also an angel investor. And my tagline is that all business is spiritual. I'm here to help and be of service.
Thank you, Alejandro. Daniel and I, as well as Anna, we co-moderate a manifestation room that happens every Sunday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we've just had such wonderful conversations. And this last Sunday, we kind of got into spiritual awakening, specifically like my story. And so it was just such divine timing because I had already scheduled this room. And I'm like, this is just so perfect. So Daniel, I would love for you to introduce yourself to everyone here.
Hey, Alice. Thank you so much for the rooms, and hi everyone who's listening. My name is Daniel, and I am a serial entrepreneur that I also help to, my e-commerce business a lot to do with energy and in crystals. So I help other people to define or figure out what kind of crystal they use with my co-founder, which is Anna. Right? So me and her are together working on this e-commerce business. So if any of you guys are interested in crystals or anything related to energy, hop on the stage and ask questions.
Thank you, Daniel. And Katie, hi, Katie. It's been a minute. I love your energy, and I know you got a lot to say about spiritual awakenings. And so I'm so happy that you are joining this evening.
It's so good to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Shannon, and I'm a high-performance coach to executives and what I like to call the ambitious, addicted professionals. I specifically focus on people who want to work on codependency recovery and learn and understand more about emotional deprivation, also known as emotional anorexia, and how that can show up for us throughout relationships and work, and live a more spiritually centered life. So Alejandro, I'm so excited to connect with you and share more of my experience as well.
Thank you, Katie. And Anna. Anna, hello. I would love for you to introduce yourself.
So my name is Anna. I'm a transformational coach specializing in manifestation and mindset. And I chose these two because my passion is integrating science and spirituality, because I have a background in neuroscience and biopsychology. And ever since finding the spiritual world, I think the two actually integrate very beautifully and can help people really realize that they can achieve their dreams. And so my mission for life is to really just uplift humanity and just help them reconnect to their inner sense of wholeness. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thank you, Anna. And I almost forgot to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Alice. For those who don't know me, I am the founder of Woo Woo Company, a guide to all things woo, spiritual, and holistic health. Everything that I share from mindfulness, sound healing, manifestation is really designed to help you discover your truth and live a more aligned life. I really believe in all these things. I was a skeptic a couple years ago, but you know, I experienced my Saturn return, which happens in your late 20s, and I got put onto the path of wellness and spirituality. And so now I help people discover their truth, and also I help wellness practitioners start and create businesses. And so let's get started. I think everyone has a bit of a different definition of spiritual awakening. I actually have never asked people this, and so this is such a wonderful platform to be asking, what do you define as a spiritual awakening? What does it feel like? And, what are some common events that kind of make up a spiritual awakening? And feel free to share your story now, but we can also get into that story next after we kind of define what is a spiritual awakening. Anyone can go. Anyone.
Hi, guys. This is Jennifer, and from the Kundalini standpoint, the Kundalini energy is the energy that lies dormant at the base of your spine. And it is believed these ancient yogis and sages, they would sit in meditation and they would discover states of consciousness that would be located throughout, beyond the physical body, but they would feel it within the physical body, swirling around, called chakras. So the Kundalini energy, what it does is it twists up the chakras 3.5 times out through the crown chakra. And the purpose of a Kundalini awakening, it is to unite with the infinite, is to unite with the divine. Yoga means to unite. So it is to embody yoga, to connect this physical reality, this physical body with the infinite, and to be an instrument in your daily life of grace. A Kundalini awakening is not always pleasant. It can take, it can bring up a lot of trauma from the surface because your issues lie in your tissues, and it can be moved through by prana, by breath. It can also come through in deep states of meditation. So a spiritual awakening can also happen when you go through something profound in your life. I know Eckhart Tolle talks about at the beginning of his book, Power of Now, how he reached a spiritual awakening as he was contemplating suicide. And all of a sudden, he popped into this alternate reality of deep presence and understanding of why he was here in that moment. So a lot of times in the Yoga Sutras and the ancient scripture of yoga, it talks about this purification that can happen in a spiritual journey through different perils, through different challenges. And then all of a sudden, there's this awakening that happens where you realize that you are really not in control, that there is a divine intelligence guiding you. And you can surrender into that because it is very benevolent. It is very benevolent, and it is working in your favor for you to learn in this life, to gain wisdom and leave a legacy behind. And that is all I have to say about that for now. This is Jennifer, and I'm whole.
Thank you, Jennifer. This last year I've really gotten into Kundalini, chanting a lot of Kriyas. I find it to be so powerful. And in my work, I constantly share about the chakras. I believe that it is such a great way to understand, the energy you hold, and then understanding, how that energy works all around us. And so to refresh the room, we're talking about spiritual awakenings. If you want to share your story, if you have a question, please raise your hand and one of us will bring you up onto stage. And just as a disclaimer, I'm going to try to record this conversation and put it on my podcast so that other people can listen and you can come back to this information. And if you don't want to be included, no worries, just DM me and I will cut you out. I want to be respectful for that. And I know Phil joined the stage. Phil, do you have a question before we kind of continue to go around this digital spiritual campfire?
No, I'm just enjoying the warmth of the fire.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Okay.
So sweet.
And so, who else wants to share, their definition of spiritual awakening? Alejandro?
Yeah, I think there's a beautiful quote that I really love and I resonate with. It says, "A person has two lives. The moment that he recognizes that there's only one, and then life after that." So I really love that quote because it really resonates powerfully with me. And my spiritual awakening was more of a cracked open feeling. Very similar for me. I've been practicing a lot of spirituality, a lot of Buddhism, a lot of awareness, a lot of understanding, a lot of forgiveness. And my spiritual awakening came from just being at rock bottom and just not being aligned. And life has a way of cracking you open and allowing you to see your truth either in a gentle or in a painful way. And for me, it was an incredibly painful but non-suffering. So there's pain without suffering. And similar to the Kundalini practice of it involving that energy from your root chakra, it's also, for me, it was just this deep awakening that involved sexual energy, emotional energy, intellectual capacity, just really a lot of intuition, but also feeling very vulnerable and almost incredibly lost. But lost in a way that wasn't confusing. It was just kind of lost as if it was a caveman being dropped off in the middle of Times Square. There was a lot around, not much to know, and it was just in this beautiful space of intuition, and I trusted that God was with me, and I just had to have faith that whatever was happening in my life was happening for me, not to me. And I just started taking these small steps, step by step, and making choices, making not so smart choices, making some great choices, and some not so great choices. But I feel that spiritual awakening can come in many different shapes, sizes, and flavors, and there's no right or wrong way. Just for me, it felt incredibly cracked, incredibly raw, incredibly alive, and it just felt like all of these different energies were coming out of me at once. And so I just had to take the next small step in understanding. And from then, it's been business as usual, in a very beautiful way.
Thank you for that beautiful share, Alejandro. And I think when you're going through a spiritual awakening, and you hear someone say, "This is all happening for you, not to you," it's very tough. It's it's very tough because you're just like, oh, like I don't want to deal with this. But once that moment passes and you're able to kind of be a little bit more centered and grounded, and you reflect back, you're like, yeah, that really was for my highest good. I really learned so much, and I believe that through the pain of a spiritual awakening, and of course on the journey of self-actualization and discovery, the pain that you feel can really turn into your superpower and the medicine that other people need from you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like turning pain into your purpose. And that has happened to me twice in my life. Most recently, a year ago, I burned out just after raising $84 million for a startup and just not living my practices. I lost sight of all that, and I was in denial. And I literally got cracked open through my men's group and through my spiritual practices. And at this time, I was equipped to do so, and understand that it was happening for me. My first time I was cracked open, oh man, I thought I was losing it. I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was like seeing shit and doing things, and just felt so misunderstood and like really weird in my own body. And it was just a lot of confusion. But now in the the second episode that I had last year was almost a decade apart, and I had the tools, the support, the mentors in place for proper integration, my family, and also my strength in my faith and the trust that I have in myself is just by far, like, no one can touch it, you know? The trust and the faith is unshakable.
There's such power that comes from trusting in life and surrendering through that wound. And you know that they say that through a black hole you can find an entire universe. So that's what we're constantly doing, is we're going through these voids where we feel there's no bottom and we feel we may drop. And we find ourselves completely surrounded by light. It's quite, I believe in magic because of that, because of the wounds, and because of that spelunking through the soul that we must do when we are called to have a life of awakening.
The spelunking through the soul. I love that. And to go back to what Alejandro shared, I was thinking to myself just the other day, and I'm like, spiritual awakening. And I definitely felt it around like 6-7 years ago. But lately, I felt like I went through it again last year. And I haven't had an opportunity to talk to people about this and to really share. And so, Alejandro, for you to say, yeah, I experienced it like a second time, I'm starting to really feel and believe that this happens multiple times in our lives, and we just get better equipped, we have better tools, and we know that we're going to make it through because of those times before. We have that memory. But what holds true is the feeling that kind of like your reality is shifting. You're birthing a new version of yourself, a new life for yourself, and that's why it feels so jarring. It can look differently, it can manifest differently, but it always feels the same.
Amen, sister.
Does anyone else want to share their definition of a spiritual awakening?
I can share a little of mine. Yeah, so based on listening to Jennifer's and Alejandro's story, thank you guys for sharing. My spiritual awakening is kind of like a different, opposite experience than you guys. It's like a aha moment. I don't know if you guys ever felt that way. It's just like an aha moment that you feel like, oh, it makes so much more sense now. Because I had a long history of Buddhism background. So my family is Buddhism, and then we have been following this master for a long time. And a lot of time, every single year, especially the Chinese New Year, we always attend this ritual, like ceremony, Buddhism ceremony for welcoming the new year. So every single year, he will have multiple events as well. So during that event, he will start talking about different aspects of Buddhism. When I was young, I have no idea what that means, but I like to listen to these kind of words because I feel like, wise word from a master is always good to learn, good to hear. Someday, maybe one day you will understand. So which I do truly believe that. Then after really understand, my spiritual awakening is actually not through him. It's very funny. It's actually through Abraham Hicks. There are so many incidents that Abraham was talking about, a lot of meaning, like ideas and all these thoughts and become creations. And then I was like, wow, it makes so much more sense now to dating back to what a master was saying. It is literally the same thing they were talking. Because for me, Chinese is kind of like, even though my native language is Chinese, which is, I'm not ashamed of telling you guys, I'm not really good at Chinese. So that actually stopped me from really understanding what he was talking about. Then when it comes to English, I have so much more clarity and then understand what Abraham was talking about. And then I mix them together and then become my aha moment. So for me, it's like spiritual awakening truly meaning is that aha moment from the faith that you have for yourself, and it also add on to your self-awareness. If you don't have the self-awareness to understand these two things can have something similarity, then you will not be able to have that aha moment. So for me, I feel like spiritual awakening, the first step is kind of like have faith for yourself, and then also have the self-awareness part. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, self-awareness, extremely important, and just combining lots of different teachings and modalities. Everyone's really talking about the same thing. So I love that you're able to share something that has always been in your life, Buddhism, and the teacher that your family has always followed, and then, of course, Abraham Hicks. Katie, I think that you also wanted to share your story. And welcome, Susie. So good to see you. And Michelle and Kaz, welcome to the stage. After Katie shares, we will give an opportunity for you to ask your questions or share your stories.
Yeah, so I'm extremely stubborn. So I have to get hit with spiritual awakenings multiple times to get the message. And by the time I think I had like the first spiritual awakening that really just like busted me open, at that point I had already been like super miserable in my career. I had reached heights that I never imagined, and felt like garbage, hated myself, was dating, alcoholic after alcoholic, wanting to save their lives, avoid myself, my own really terrible decisions, and everything looked really good on the outside. And so I started doing work, and actually, like my first sort of mini spiritual awakening happened when I started doing volunteer work with men coming out of prison and styling them for jobs when they were getting out, and that really just like woke me up. And I felt like more connected to other human beings through that work than I ever did, working in hospitality for years. And at the time I was really lost and didn't know where my life was supposed to be going, because I didn't like to be led. I wanted to make my own path and drive forward. And I remember actually watching a talk that Glennon Doyle was doing on over Super Soul Stage, and it was about leaning into your pain. And I was watching it right next to my mom. I must have watched it a couple times before, and I remember she said something about, whenever we start feeling pain, that's when the easy buttons come up, just like the Staples commercials. And I remember thinking, it was Christmas night, I remember thinking like, I wonder what would happen if I decided to take away my easy buttons. Like, I wonder for what my easy buttons even are. And so as soon as I made that decision and said it in my head, it was like a shape shift, and all of a sudden it was like Wizard of Oz, like when Wendy goes, it's black and white and she goes into color, and like something changed inside of me, and I didn't know what it was, but all of a sudden I felt different, and everything just had a different feeling to it when I was at my parents' house. And ironically, I was talking to my mom about it today, and we realized that was the last time 2 years ago that my family has been together, and in that isolated state where we didn't really trust each other and didn't really even know each other, but we were like in the same space. And so from that moment, I decided to take away social media, take away drinking, take away things, and I just freaked out. I couldn't handle myself, and ironically, 3 days later, I was getting out of a relationship, and a friend recommended going into codependency recovery, and that really opened the door for me of just such a great awareness, understanding my emotional anorexia, and the family lineage of suffering or addiction to suffering, and left my family for 7 months to go find myself. And from there, my brother actually ended up getting sober. My parents have decided to part ways, and we've all been doing plant medicine as well, and sort of going into a greater awakening. So as painful as it's been a really, really beautiful experience, and I do feel like I'm leading into being led and in full surrender more and more, and that's really the journey. So thank you so much for letting me share.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with what you said in terms of just it has to happen a lot before you really get it. And for myself, my spiritual awakening was really in alignment with entrepreneurship. I had, done side hustles, I'd done it full time, but I was in so much in denial of the way that I wanted to live, how I wanted to create, and entrepreneurship is really part of my soul and my calling, but I was denying that for so long. And then one day it was kind of like I woke up and it was not knowledge, it became wisdom, and I began to embody it. And that was such a big shift. So I would love to ask Michelle, do you have a story you want to share or a question? I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everyone, for sharing, Jennifer, Daniel, Katie, and Alice, Anna. It's so great to hear all of your different stories about your spiritual awakening. And what I'm seeing that like we all have in common, right, is just the recognition of your ego, like how Eckhart Tolle in his book wrote, like, oh, he noticed his voice the voice in his head, and then he noticed like if the I in his voice is not actually him, then who is he? It was a whole thing, but I don't know if you guys have read the book, but it's so great to be able to recognize, your ego and then your spirit, like who you actually are, right? Those are two separate things if, you believe that. But that's how I started my spiritual awakening. Like I did a self-development course and it was more cognitive, but I totally just got that. Like I've been running my life like on autopilot. Like I didn't really know what I was doing. Like sure I had thoughts, but I didn't know like what I was committed to or like what I really wanted from my life. But then I got clear that like I'm the one responsible. And I think that was like my aha moment. Like, oh my God, I'm responsible for my life. Like sure I've had the thoughts of like, okay, I have to do this, get into college and, get a job and all these things. But what I got was I'm responsible for the context in which I live my life and how I see, like, how I view my parents, how I view the relationships in my life, and how I view myself, right? I'm the creator of all of that. And since I, like, did that work cognitively, I've also expanded spiritually. And that has led me to, God and exploring different plant medicines and just expanding my capacity to be with like my spirit and like who I actually am and discovering and creating like my life the way that I want to and the way that I was designed to. And it's been so cool to see the things that have showed up in my space, like manifesting things in my life, and to see like how deep my relationships can go. 'Cause like my relationship, I'm actually Kaz is my boyfriend, and so I go through and we've been together for 4 years, and I go through our relationship, and I'm like, oh, I can't really get better than this. But then there's like a level that we can go like deeper together, and it's been so beautiful to discover that as I've gone on my spiritual journey. And so, thank you so much for sharing your spiritual journeys because I get something from that, and then just giving me the space to share because then I'm just present to like how beautiful my life is and how beautiful I get to make it. So thank you.
So beautiful, Michelle. I like to describe you have to be the actor, the director, the producer of your life. That is so important, and it's so easy to be on autopilot, and you don't even realize you're on autopilot, right? You just kind of realize one day, like I don't think I really want to do this. I think this is what society wants from me. This is what like my family, my friends, my community want from me. And once you kind of step out of that, really things open up and it becomes quite expansive, but also very scary as well. But fear and excitement are two sides of the same coin.
Yes, Michelle, I can hear that bravery in your voice. I can hear that tender-hearted courage. And I love that you are rewiring the conditioning patterns that you have had and moving into that flow of manifestation. It's really such a lighthouse for the world, and just loved everything you were saying. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Cass, you are up. Do you have a story to share or a question to ask?
Hi. So let me think. I've just been listening to what everyone's saying. Everyone has such. It's so great to hear different perspectives on spirituality and this whole conversation. Just to hear different words used to describe very similar phenomena. And I think it's just a fascinating thing that we all get to sit by the proverbial bonfire of spirituality and warm our hands with spirit. And I think for me personally, I've been in transformational work. I was thrust upon it by my dad. I was I was a year old, and then in the seminar, what I got to experience was this level of connection in the room with people that I had only known for 3 days, that led me and showed me that experientially there is more to life than what I had known there to be. It is possible to gather a room full of 100 people or more and have them all be on the same page and be able to have a complete conversation with anybody in the room about something that is so expansive and so powerful and so resonating. It just resonates throughout everybody in the room, and it's possible to do that. And when you experience it, it's something that's undeniable. So I guess that for me would be the beginning of what I would call my spiritual awakening and spiritual journey, because I always one thing I like to say is yesterday's transformation is today's ego trip, and I definitely can see how the spiritual journey in itself is so expansive that it's almost like you're waking up over and over and over again, and it's always like this. As soon as you think you're awake, wake up. It's like inception in that regard. And I always I always try to at least involve myself in conversations that are expansive and in conversations that aren't necessarily comfortable or I guess something that we're familiar with, because sometimes intuition and spirit takes us in places that we're not comfortable. So yeah, I think overall with spiritual awakening, I would say that one of the things that has been a landmark point in my life is understanding that I'm part of this transition, and that the consciousness of the whole universe is uprising, and over time continues to expand upon itself and develop and become more and more expressed, and that our responsibility as people who have taken whatever leap forward into the unknown, into the spiritual abyss that there is, to share that and to spread that, and that is why we're here, at least in the grand theory of it. Obviously, we all have our own different expressions of it, but yeah, that's what I'd say.
Thank you, Kaz. I feel like so often a spiritual awakening is lonely, which is why I was very excited to have this room in case, someone is in Clubhouse or like, like I'm going through this and they see this room like, this is like the medicine. This is the community that I need. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I started my company because I believe that your spiritual awakening really aligns with a questioning of purpose. It's like an existential crisis, and it's just so jarring. And oftentimes things look fine on the outside, like Katie said, but you're just crumbling on the inside. And if someone else isn't going through it or someone else hasn't gone through it, they kind of like look at you and like everything is fine. I don't know what you're complaining about, but it's hard for people to understand if they have not gone through it because it requires someone to be very ready, very open to receive and this experience, to surrender to this type of experience. The conversations that were happening in that spiritual awakenings room was incredible. I loved hearing everyone's definitions and how people found themselves on the spiritual path and the spiritual journey. Now, this is just part one. In 2 weeks, you will hear part two. So, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do so that you know when the second part of this Clubhouse room will be published. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, enjoyed this episode, please rate this podcast 5 stars. And if you think one of your friends or a colleague or family member could really benefit from listening to these stories, send this podcast their way. If you think you're going through a spiritual journey, know that you are not alone. Please reach out to me if you have questions and ask the universe for guidance. If you're looking for more like-minded friends who are going through the same experiences, just ask and you shall receive. Time and time again, when I ask the universe for something to send me support, send me some guidance, it always comes through. So I truly, truly invite you to explore this. Ask the universe for what you need. And of course, I'm always here for you. So I would love to know, if you're going through this spiritual awakening, what are you experiencing? And what type of support do you need? You can check the show notes for other podcast episodes that may be very helpful as you are experiencing this, as well as some other resources.